Hello everyone, welcome to Cherry Clips. Today I will be sharing a movie named Always. Carl used to be a professional boxer. He was the national champion in 1999. But he disappeared without notifying anyone, even his coach in the gym. 4 years later, he works as a delivery man in the day and a doorman at night. The first night he works in the parking lot, a young lady named Jane greets him warmly. Jane shoves some oranges and rice balls at him. Carl doesn't know what to say at first. Later, he asks who she is. Jane is surprised. She thought he was the old man who worked there. Jane used to watch TV with the old man, and the man didn't mention his retirement. Until now, Carl didn't notice that the girl is blind. Jane feels embarrassed and leaves the booth. It's raining heavily outside, and Carl invites her in politely. He can't help staring at her when she listens carefully to the TV. To thank him for his kindness, Jane gives the rice ball to him. The next day, Jane joins them again. She has an acute sense of smell. She opens the window and asks Carl if he's worked out. It's a subtle way to remind Carl that his feet are smelly. Before Jane leaves, Carl returns her lunchbox with some peaches inside. They officially introduce each other. The third day, Carl changed into a new pair of shoes. Jane smells it immediately and appreciates his thoughtful gesture. Carl is a little shy. On her way back home, Jane is startled by a car and twists her ankle when she falls down. Carl asks another coworker to cover his shift, and he takes Jane to the hospital. There's a long set of stairs to Jane's home. Carl carries her on his back. What's more, a kid is joking around with him. He is exhausted when they arrive home. Jane asks one more favor. The drain of her kitchen sink was clogged with something. Carl pulls out a panty with a squirrel pattern. Jane blushes with shame and grabs it back. Later, Jane expresses her gratitude and gives Carl 2 concert tickets. Carl doesn't know music and he has no one to go with. Jane would like to accompany him. It's definitely a date. Jane does her hair, dresses in a skirt, and wears perfume. Carl thinks she's cute. Jane enjoys the music, while Carl stares at her all night. After the concert, they go to dinner. Jane shares that she studied sculpture in college, but after she lost her sight, it was impossible to continue her studies. When she asks Carl about his past, he interrupts her rudely. Jane is a little frightened and upset. Carl sends Jane home. He senses her low mood, so he explains that he feels ashamed of himself. He's now 30 years old. He quit boxing when he was young. Then, he beat up people to collect their debts. He tries to be a good person now. Jane's relieved to hear this. Carl goes back to his previous training gym. His coach is angry at him for disappearing without any notice. He forces Carl to tell the truth. Otherwise, he won't help Carl. Carl repeats his debt collecting story. He was beating a debtor when the police knocked on the door. The man felt hopeless, and he ignited himself and jumped out of the window. Although Carl did his best to catch him, the man fell and was burnt badly. He ended up in a church hospital, and Carl was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Carl feels sorry for the man. He checks on the man regularly after he got out of prison. The nun encourages him to move forward and treat himself nicely. She gives him a hairpin. It's a gift from a donor. She suggests Carl send it to a lovely girl. Jane is the first one that comes to his mind. Jane works as an operator in a customer service center. Her boss harasses her every now and then. Jane puts up with him because she needs the job. One day, the boss follows her to her house and he forces his way in. Then he tries to assault Jane. Jane fights back in vain, and the boss slaps her without mercy. Right then, Carl bursts through the door. He planned to give Jane the hairpin. He beats the boss almost to death. Jane begs him not to kill anyone, so Carl breaks his fingers and lets him go. Instead of feeling lucky, Jane is afraid that her boss will fire her. Carl promises to take care of her. The next morning, Carl follows her all the way to work to protect her. Jane quits the job that day. She asks Carl to take her out on the weekend for relaxation. Carl brings her a golden retriever. They name it Easy. Then they drive to a riverside. Carl grew up in the orphanage across the river. Jane picks up a pebble and puts it in his hand. Carl carries it as if it's Jane. They hold hands together, thus the romance begins. To earn more money, Carl discusses with his coach to arrange matches for him. They aim for the UFC. Carl starts practicing and gaining back his strength. In the coming matches, he takes down his competitors one by one. His hard work and talent pays off. The coach is excited. Jane and Carl move in together. Carl rearranges the furniture and tables in his room to accommodate Jane. He removes the door sill and gets a new window. Jane learns massage to relax Carl's muscles. What a happy couple. After a fierce fight, Carl is seriously injured, but he's glad to win $400. Another boxer approaches him. He invites him to play with him in the black market. The boxer was instructed by the same coach, but he betrayed the gym to go for the big money. Carl and the coach despise him and turn him away. On a holiday, Jane leads Carl to her parents' grave. She recalls the accident. Years earlier, she drove home with her parents from a trip. A truck driver was startled by a burning man falling from a building. He drove into Jane's car. Her parents died on the site, and her vision was damaged. Carl is shocked because he caused the accident. He actually saw the accident from the burning man's room. It never occurred to him that it was Jane. He is full of regret and agony. Jane was able to sense light at first, but one day she lost all her eyesight. If she doesn't undergo surgery immediately, she'll be blind permanently. Rather than waiting for donors, the doctor proposes for her to buy a cornea. Carl finds the betrayer. He's willing to fight in the black market. The organizer prepays him $30,000 to go to Thailand. The match is extremely dangerous. He can't be caught by the local police, so the organizers offer him a new ID and phone. Carl lies to Jane and tells her it's his savings. He persuades Jane to do the operation because he wants to have a child with her. He wishes Jane to see the child grow up. Jane enters the operation room and makes a gesture of victory to him. Carl promises to be there for her. Actually, he's not sure if he can come back alive. He demolishes all his pictures and IDs in their home. Then he flies to Thailand with a fake ID. The organizer leads him to a secret room. His competitor has eliminated several rivals before. There are no rules in the game. It ends only when one dies or is knocked out. Carl is locked in the same cage with his competitor. The competitor is so strong that Carl can't get up. He endures all the attacks. Then he thinks about Jane. He gets the power to stand up and fights back. Finally, Carl knocks out the competitor with a fatal kick. He gets a 10-gram diamond as a prize. The diamond is hidden inside a toy to bring back to Korea. The organizer bets against him. He never expected Carl to win. He is so pissed off, he orders a bully to get the money back. The bully runs him over and stabs him several times. Jane's operation goes well, but she can't find Carl from then on. She tries to report him missing to the police. Since she's not a direct relative with Carl, the police won't accept her request. Their house payment is due, and the landlord requests her to move out. She refuses to do so because Carl won't be able to find her. However, the landlord forces her out anyway. When she's packing her stuff, she receives another hairpin sent from the nun. Jane tracks the church hospital down. She is told of Carl's past from the burnt debtor. How funny fate is! Carl is related to her car accident. 2 years later, she works in a pottery store. The owner of the shop admires her, but she claims that she's married. Jane does volunteer work in the hospital. One day, there's a new patient admitted in. It's Carl. He's disfigured and paralyzed. That's why he doesn't look for Jane after the car accident. Jane does massages for him. The name on the card of Carl shows his fake name, so Jane is not aware that it's Carl. Jane advises him to practice more because his muscles are tight. After Jane leaves, a pebble slides out of Carl's hand. Carl cries to himself. A few days later, Jane puts the turtle Carl raised in the pottery store. Then she goes to the pet hospital to treat their dog Easy. Carl follows her to the store. He buys Jane's favorite flower and steals his turtle back. After he walks out, Easy jumps at him. He hasn't forgotten about his old master. Jane apologizes to him. She recognizes him as the patient in the hospital. Carl doesn't say anything. He walks away with a limp. The dog barks at him. Jane's curious why Easy is acting weird. Carl's heart is broken, but he has to let go of her for her happiness. Later, Jane finds that her turtle is gone. Then she thinks about the excited dog. Now she knows. She confirms with the shop owner if a crippled man was there. The owner says yes. Jane runs back to the spot she came across Carl. Runs around the neighboring blocks. There's no trace of Carl. Jane can't control her tears. She crumbles to the ground, blaming herself for not recognizing Carl in the hospital. Carl takes the turtle to the river. He sets it free, just like he does Jane. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls his name. Jane found him. She knows this is his favorite spot. Jane touches his face like the way she used to and apologizes to him. Then she makes him look into her eyes. She hugs him tightly. Destiny works in mysterious ways. Good fortune follows upon disaster. But as long as you don't admit fate, you can get what you want. I love you not because of the rain. It's because you are softer than the rain. I love you not because of the sunset. It's because you make the sunset special. It's my luck to meet you, to be with you, always.